Hello and welcome back to 9-inch Charge. Today we are talking about release boxes for Warhammer the Old World and brand new Tomb Kings models that we've never before seen. Lots of exciting stuff to talk about. Also, the website has now been updated with an interactive map, and there's been more lore revealed about Bretonia and the setting of the game and the year that it is in. But first and foremost, front and center, there are two brand new massive army boxes to talk about. Tom, what are your thoughts?
I'm so hyped for this right now, okay? I was like, in the back of my mind, I was a bit not happy about these miniatures that were coming out. They've been in the range since I've been in the hobby, but I can see these photos and it's selling it right now, you know? It just looks great. It looks like it was always meant to be like this and it should never have gone away. I am so hyped. I just don't care. No one's going to turn me. I'm planting my flag on this hill, and it might just be one of the greatest things I've seen this year out of the hobby.
It's cool, isn't it, for a number of reasons. I think the nostalgia factor is like through the roof, but then the new stuff is really cool as well. It does feel like what the next edition would have been like you said, had it never gone away. Which is very cool. What I like about the boxes is that you get a 1,250 point army straight off the bat, which is definitely enough to get you playing, but playing proper games. So a lot of these starter sets, they will give you like a force or some units, but doesn't feel complete. But for example, if we look at the Bretonia box set, you've got all the core choices that you need and ready to build on, because a peasant unit and a Knights of the Realm unit are 1+, so you must take them. Then you've got a unit of peasant archers as extra. You've got a special unit in your Pegasus Knights, and you've got a hero. So I think it's very cool that you've just got something that you can use straight out the box. The Tomb Kings book gives you 2 heroes and a massive centerpiece, which is really cool. And loads, it's like 96 models or something like that in the Tomb
93.
Kings. 93 models, yeah. It's just absolutely crazy.
My day one purchase for that Tomb King box would be another box of chariots, wouldn't it? And you'd be set. You'd be so set with that.
They might have lent too heavily into the skeletal horsemen, if I'm honest, and not enough into chariots. If I was to criticize it, I would say I think probably 2 units of chariots would have made it kind of the perfect box, but that's fine because we can pick up another box of chariots. It also comes with the rule book, doesn't it? Which is just phenomenal. 352 pages with 70 pages of background and lore.
Yeah, that rule book looks something special. I can't wait to crack that open.
It's exactly what I had hoped for, if I'm honest, is that I wanted a really big rule book, but not because I wanted the rules to be really extensive necessarily, is because I wanted, a few pages on every faction, a timeline, and new lore. This is the opportunity they have now, is that they've picked a new time frame and they can write new things into the lore. And I'm interested in the history of the old world, and I want to know what's going on. So I think that is really cool. Do you know what? Everyone used to call it the BRB, didn't they? And you used to have your big red book or your big rule book or whatever. And now it's the BBB, the big blue book. But I tell you what, it looks nice, doesn't it?
It does, mate. It just looks really well made. Just looks like someone's put some time and thought into the presentation of that book.
And then you've got Ravening Hordes. Ravening Hordes is the first book I owned in the hobby. When I started in the hobby, in and around the turn of the millennium, Ravening Hordes was the place to go to get the rules for your army, and now it's back. But there is Ravening Hordes and Forces of Fantasy, your good factions and your evil factions. Even though when they did good and evil factions on the article, they then sort of redacted it and took it back and said, oh no, that maybe they're not good and evil, but now they are good and evil again. But either way, your factions are in these books.
Yeah.
So, and that includes all the factions for the game. So your high elves, wood elves, your dwarves, your empire, your orcs and goblins, your beast men,
Warriors of
all those
Chaos.
kinds. Yeah, all that sort of
Yeah.
stuff. So that's cool, and they look quite substantial as well. 192 pages for the Forces of Fantasy. And what's cool is that you get your special rules, your magic items, your unique spells. So they are kind of more fleshed out. It's not just, okay, here's your unit profile, off you go.
Mm.
You will actually get, individual magic items and things like that. It does, like you said, it feels like a lot of thought has gone into the rules. A lot of thought has gone into the books. More so than the models. And I understand that when you're not a main studio game, you don't get as many plastic kits, you don't get as much time from the design team and things like that. So they seem to have really made the most of the writing. And actually, for me, that's the most important thing, because I already really enjoyed the aesthetic of the old world, and I just want to learn more about it and play more fun games in that setting. So the fact that they seem to be getting the rules writing on point, there has been a little bit of back and forth about what people think about Magic, but other than that, quite interestingly, there's not been a lot of controversy, whereas actually you might think that there could be with the kind of people who go keyboard warring on Facebook and things like
Yeah.
that. Their long diatribes and things about, oh well, it used to be like this and this is how it should always be. Actually, they seem to have captured the community pretty well.
Yeah. Well, let's wait until everyone's got a rule book in their hand to make that judgment. Let's wait until terrain, open ground, isn't the first terrain listed in the book, because that's getting closed straight away.
Well, I think all being well, there will be FAQs where there weren't before, and then on top of this, there are what they call arcane journals.
Arcane Journal. Oh, that's a great name for the books, isn't it? So much
Yeah, so
nicer than Army Book.
You don't get an army book, you get an arcane journal. And an arcane journal is a paperback. And army books used to be paperback. I've got on the shelves behind me here on the bottom shelf, I've got a Wood Elf rule book that came in paperback. So they weren't always hardback. And they are kind of your
Looks like
upgrade.
a supplement size, doesn't it, book?
Yeah. And that will give you army specific rules. So there's one for Tomb Kings, one for Bretonia, and that allows you to create the armies of renown and different ways to play with the army, additional rules, and also introduces special characters, which looks like they aren't included in the Ravening Hordes style books. Interestingly, though, those journals aren't included from the looks of it in the starter box, which is strange, because you will buy your army, get your rule book, get your dice, get your whippy sticks, get your templates, get everything you need to play, except for the rule book for the army that you've just picked up the box for. So
yeah,
I think they probably missed a trick there, if I'm honest. I would say that they could have bundled that in, but maybe they're trying to keep the cost of the box down. I don't know. And actually now there's different ways to play, isn't there? So you might just pick up the Ravening Hordes rather than the Arcane Journal. I don't know.
maybe. I think if it was me, I would have done like a cut of this book and done maybe in the reference sheet, just done a quick like side of here's your grand composition and here's some special items from the book. But actually, if you want the whole shebang,
I would have thought that they probably will have the unit stats or the unit profiles in the box somewhere, but just not the full rules.
yeah.
But yeah, I think that's the only that and not having enough chariots in the Tomb King box are the only things really. And actually, that's not a lot. I think I really like all the artwork, the direction they're going with the artwork, and the way that it's presented. I love that the Bretonians are on like a flock, static grass, like table.
Yeah.
I think that's cool. And then we got our first look at some brand new models for the Tomb Kings. Let's kick off, Tom, with your favourite, the Standard Bearer, the Battle Standard Bearer.
This BSB almost made me have a hobby wobble, Dan. I was dead set on doing Bretonians, and then I saw this BSB. I was like, oh, actually, it could be Tomb Kings, Dan. I could have a last-minute flip. It's so nice. I don't think there's a thing wrong with it, to be honest.
There are lots of nice details about it, like from the scarabs that are climbing up the staff of it and things like that. Yeah, I really like it. I think the only thing I would change is they keep giving them this green sort of ghoulish skin, and when I paint them, I'm not going to have them a green skin. I mean, this is getting sidetracked now, but I went to a museum when I was going to do Tomb Kings before the Old World was announced, and I went and had a look at some embalmed ancient Egyptian bodies, and their skin is like really, really dark, like black almost. So I think that's how I'm going to do them, with then like contrast black, like glowing eyes. But I think it will just add. It's funny because I was saying it's going to add a bit of realism in a fantasy world, but that's how I'm going to do them, because it's how I saw them in the museum. But yeah, other than that color for the skin, the model is it's fantastic. Yeah, really great. I like Nekaf, the emissary of Setra. I think he looks really cool with his really long scroll that's coming down and his flail of skulls. He was in the 8th edition book as a special character, but I don't think he ever had a model. So it's cool that he's got this model now. He was like Setra's number one servant, I suppose. He was like the number one guy. So when Setra died, he was the first person that committed suicide and then was entombed like right next to Setra, mummified and like bound next to him. And then when Setra woke up, he was like, "Oh look, it's my dude." So Nekaf has kind of always been
OG
there.
hype man.
Yeah. So yeah, and he had this flail of skulls before, and now it's called the Flail of Conquered Kings. So I really like just little things like that are what I'm looking forward to in the lore, is that now we know that these skulls are like the heads of kings that have been conquered. And he used to be pretty good. Like the flail, I think, gave him +2 strength, and in a challenge, he had killing blow on a 5. So he was like, you'd be a bit worried going into a unit that's got him in it, because you would think in a challenge he's got the potential there to killing blow. I think he might have had heroic killing blow.
Oh, heroic killing blow was disgusting.
I can't remember if it was just normal killing blow or heroic killing blow, but he had 3 attacks and it was on a 5. So odds are he was going to roll a 5
eventually. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we've got a new kit, the Tomb Swarms. Not a kit I was expecting to be redone, if I'm honest. If I was going to pick something, it may well have been the Skeletal Horseman. But we have new Tomb Swarms, and they're cool. They've got a bit of height to them, which Swarms didn't really have before. And they've got there's like a skeleton crawling out of it. What I like about them is all the bits. I wonder how many bits they come in, because it would be cool to separate some of these things out, the shields and the scarabs and things like that.
I do have a feeling a lot of that's going to be molded in. You might have a heck of a time getting that stuff out. Might be quicker just to buy the Games Workshop Skull kit.
Yeah. But I want a scorpion and I want some little bits, but we'll see. We'll see. Tom, what are your thoughts on Tomb Swarms?
Yeah. I don't know. As you said, I think there are a lot cooler kits they could have done, like mummies or the horseman, but it could have just been an easy win for someone, you know.
I think they're interesting because they're not a unit that I thought was brilliant rules wise, because they just had very low weapon skill and toughness, so they got beaten back quite quickly. They had a good few wounds each. They could be entombed in the sands and could ambush and things, but maybe they'll get a bit of a glow up in the rules, which would be quite cool.
Yeah, they were good flankers, But in a time where a lot of stuff had flaming attacks, I think all swarms were flammable in 8th. So, yeah. Oh well. I'll add some to my Tomb King's army when I get them. That's for sure.
Yeah, but not. Well, I don't think we were as hyped as we were about the others.
This compared to the Foot Knights, right? If this was the opposite, I'd just go, those models are cool, right? But if they would release something on par with those Foot Knights, I'd have table flipped something and ran to Warhammer World to pick up my copy right now.
Yeah, I agree. They're not on par with the Foot Knights, are they? Let's be honest. I would have thought New Carrion or something like that as well could have been a good option.
That'd be nice.
But I think, but Tomb Kings are in a better place overall, probably. I know we have been down talking some of the models in this video, but we've got to remember they did have an 8th edition release, and they do have some new models that are really cool. Whereas Bretonians didn't have a release. They had a 6th edition book, and then that was it.
Yeah.
So like Bretonians are kind of more in need of it, maybe.
I was just thinking of the Necro Sphinx. That was an incredible model. It probably even to today, it's like a really good model, that one.
Yeah, I love it. I love all that stuff that came along. Was really good. So, so I think that's probably why Bretonians have got a little bit more of a glow up, is because they were left behind a bit more, I suppose. So we have gotten a good look at what is coming out at release. So it shouldn't be too long. We've been doing we've been getting the board out and the photos and the string, and we've been trying to draw the diagrams and link everything together. And I think, what were we saying, that it was announced now? Dan was trying to work it out, wasn't he?
Yeah. So the strong feeling is like the 20th is what we're thinking.
And what's that take us to next Sunday, and then a 2-week pre-order? Is it something like that we were saying?
I think it's on the 6th. It's a 2-week pre-order. So the 6th, the 13th, and then the 20th.
Which is when that book drops, the Lords of the Lance. I can't read that book and not think of Lord of the Dance. That's the only thing about the title of that book. But the Lords of the Lance is out on the 20th.
Michael Flatley's going to be the King of Bretonia, just kicking orcs around the place. I'll read that.
So that's what we're thinking, isn't it? That's kind of what our speculation is kind of leading us to. Obviously, we don't know, but we strongly kind of think that
it's ramping up, isn't it? Now you don't drop the box until you're almost ready to go do the pre-order.
Yeah. And then it goes on. It says some other things here that are quite interesting. On top of these, a full range of classic Khemri miniatures will be returning to bolster the forces featured in this article, with much more to come in the future. So you'll get this, and you will get the classic range of miniatures that are returning to fully flesh out the armies. They said the same for Tomb King, for Bretonia, because we've been looking at Grail Knights and things like that. The Bretonians and Tomb Kings are just the first two of 9 factions arriving for the World of Legend. The rules for the other 7 will be available at launch in Forces of Fantasy and Ravening Hordes, and look out for miniature releases for the other 7 in due course. When that will be, we don't know. Hopefully sooner rather than later, because they're releasing the rules, and people will want to get stuck into not just playing 2 factions and have a game that is only 2 factions. So whether that means new releases and big boxes will be released in due course, or whether you won't be able to get anything at launch and you'll have to wait in due course for them to release the rest, I don't know what the capacity is. I don't think it would be too difficult for them to do some of the stuff at launch, because we've just had all the things that were in Cities of Sigmar gone,
Yeah.
discontinued, but they just need to be put in new boxes. That's all that needs to happen. Someone just needs to take the sprues out
Yeah.
and put them in a new box, and then sellotape some square bases to the front of the box. That's it. Done.
Yeah, but the new artwork has to be designed, unless they go back to the old white artwork for a bit.
Yeah,
I
I mean,
wouldn't mind
I wouldn't mind in an interim. So
They've
we'll
done
have
it
to wait and
with
see.
Yeah, they've done that with Age of Sigmar for long enough. So many kits are still in the white box with Warhammer on it.
Oh, they keep, don't get me started about the artwork on Age of Sigmar boxes, because Wood Elves became Wanderers and they got Wanderer specific boxes. And I was like, oh, Wanderer specific boxes. This must mean they're going to stay.
Yeah, and then
So don't let
somebody put Pooja Gladeguard in an article, didn't they? Not in an article, in a feedback form. And then they went.
And then they went. So yeah, so having artwork doesn't mean you're safe. So sometimes, the white boxes are just as good. So
Dan, what are you thinking? Which box?
Oh, don't get me started, because I've been going backwards and forwards for such a long time about this. So, because before the game was announced, I was quite firmly doing Tomb Kings, and I bought some third-party skeletons to try out painting on and things like that. And I was pretty hyped for the Tomb Kings. Then I saw that Bretonnian box, and I think the Bretonnian box is just perfect. Like I said, it has everything exactly what you would want. I'm not convinced that for my own hobby that I would want everything that is in the Tomb Kings box. And then I was thinking, well, I collect Wood Elves, and Bretonnians are allies with Wood Elves in this, and I could kind of put some Wood Elf units in my Bretonnian collection and bolster it up for a while, and that would be cool to kind of have a united army. But then I think, well, I've been doing Wood Elves for long enough, and wouldn't it be nice to do a project that doesn't include Wood Elves? And then so then I was like, well, actually, come on, Dan, it's time for something completely different. And you've already tested these models, and I kind of, in my mind's eye, I know how I would paint a Breton. See, I'm doing it now. I know how I would paint a Tomb King's army. And I think they would be quite easy to do. And I've been chatting a bit to Henry from Cult of Paint about army painting in the old world and things like that. So I have decided I'm going to do Tomb Kings and do something completely different. And it has been agonizing, because both boxes are, I mean, the choice is to do both. But unfortunately, I don't have the time to do both. So yeah, that's why I have finally reached that conclusion. And how about you, Tom? Which box are you picking up?
See, I really, really want to do both. I'm dead set on doing Bretonnians, right? I'm definitely picking up that box, and that's going to be my army of choice for the old world. But it would be a shame to not have one of these Tomb King boxes in your back pocket, just in case. It's so good. It's such a fine box that I'm struggling to decide if I want that as well.
I would say, Tom, that I know what a proficient painter you can be, but adding 93 models to your backlog just because you like the box is quite a lot if you're not going to get round to it.
I'll get round to it. Like I cleared this box in my model count for this year, so it's not within the realms of possible, not with, out of the realms of possibility to do. It's just like, could I just grow my? This is the problem as a collector, right? I just look at it. It's like, I could spend time doing that, or I could spend more time doing Bretonnians and have the biggest Bretonnian army in the land.
Oh, you're going to go full Dan Jolly on this, aren't you? I mean, you're sounding just like Dan Jolly. We need to get him back on the channel, actually. I mean, I can remember. Do you remember when he played? What was that game he played? Drop Zone Commander, and he had the biggest Drop Zone Commander army of the certain faction in the country. This is what you're going to do, Tom, isn't it?
I wouldn't. I would like that accolade, to be honest. It'd be nice. Yeah.
All right, well that's good because we'll each end up with an opposing force. And I've been working on the terrain. The battle mat is arriving soon, so and you are coming up to visit me in early February. So if it is out in late Jan, which we think, we could get it assembled. I don't know if we get everything painted by then, but we would at least be able to have a game,
Yeah.
which would be a great laugh. And you could bring your dwarves up as well, couldn't you? And I got the wood elves, so we could have a game with the painted armies, and then kind of do that. So that would be very cool. What else? Oh, the website is new. They've actually added something to the website now. There's a trailer for the game, which has got cool hype music in the background of it and gets you excited. There's an overview of each of the units. I think it does oversell some of the units when it tells you how cool they are.
Absolutely does.
So look at this skeleton. He's like weapon skill 2. He's amazing. Yeah, okay. But the map is very good. I recommend the map. You can zoom in. There's all kinds of things you can click on, cities and areas and regions, and it gives you a little bit of flavor text about each one, which is very cool. Because it took us ages when we were doing the lore videos to go back and research the lore individually and all the different Bretonnian regions. Little did we know we could have just waited until now and just clicked and it would have just told us. and the timeline has changed. So now we thought we were in 2201. 2201 is the year that Luanor Orcslayer was crowned. If you click around on the map, it does say that he is still king, but the year is now 2276. So he has been on the throne now for 75 years, which is longer than Queen Elizabeth's reign, which is, our longest reigning monarch. So he must be quite old. I mean, if he was crowned when he was 1, he would be he would be pretty old by now. Be in his late 70s now. It's a bit of it's sort of like a Joe Biden sort of situation going on, I think.
Well, they live really long, don't they? Bretonnian knights. They're like superhuman.
Okay, well that might
be. So yeah, their 70
too.
might be like late 50s.
So 70 is the new 40.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's right. Well, my dad will be pleased to know that. So that's where we are in the timeline. It does take us. It takes us much closer to the Great War against Chaos, actually, which kind of just happens at the end of the century. So now we're kind of 25 years, something like that, away, whereas previously we thought we were nearly a century away. So that's pretty interesting. It takes us just past the war that the Wood Elves were having with the Beastmen in Bretonnia, which is a shame because I kind of wanted to do that and to see that happen. But we're just past that point now. But yeah, lots to explore, lots to see what's going on. The setting of the Border Princes seems to be really important in the lore now as well. So what is happening from the flavor text we got from that article that told us the date was that the Tomb Kings have risen up and are attacking in the Border Princes. And when they got into the Border Princes, there was like a Bretonnian outpost or something there that rallied the Bretonnian army. So at least 2 provinces so far that we know of have responded, and 2 dukes have gone down to duke it out with the Tomb Kings. As Games Workshop have told us, all that is left now is for us to know the release date and to get our pre-orders on. Just as a side note, those of you who have made it to the end of the video, thank you very much for making it this far. We also have an affiliate link somewhere down here to Element Games. So if you are looking to pre-order it, we'd appreciate it if you would use that link to support the channel. Cost you nothing, just helps us out a bit. And thank you very much for watching, and a big shout out to our patrons, Cedar Kurokan and Alathanar, who helped make all this happen. And we will catch you next time.